Hey people, it's Joe Gamer here, and welcome to a Fallout 76 video I've been wanting to do for a couple of days, but I just needed to make sure I had all the information correct. And what this video is going over a lot of the shit that's been spread around the internet about fixing Fallout 76. Now, granted, the game does have its problems, but that's not really relevant to this issue. This issue is about properly doing any tweaks. There's a lot of false information on how to get this to work, and people are having problems, and that is because the information that people are giving actually is incorrect. And I'm going to actually correct a bunch of things for you guys in this video and show you exactly some of the stuff that can be changed, because I have a list of stuff that I was messing with. Now, before going into this video, I want to get out of the way. People are always hell-bent that credit needs to be issued for whoever came up with this. That is a line of crap, okay? Just because somebody's name is up on the internet, things like that, that doesn't mean shit. Yeah, granted, they came up with some things good, but they're probably not the only one that did it. Some person in Korea probably did this before they did, they just didn't post it. So there's a difference between getting credit for something that you did, and be even the first one to do it, and then known creditors. Just because you're known, that doesn't mean you came up with it first. Anyway, the point is that I just like to cover all these aspects because they are part of it. Nobody likes to talk about it, and people think it's negative, and you're bashing somebody wherever else it is. So let's get that shit out of the way, and now I can get right into the video. Alright, so as far as credit goes, this is a community effort. Hell, I was even tweaking some of the INI settings before I even looked up half of the stuff that it's doing, and it turned out that I was doing some of the same stuff other people were doing. So this isn't going to be credited to any one specific individual. This is a group effort that the entire community gets credited. So if you see somebody's name, fine, good. I'm not saying downplay that, but I'm just saying there are things that I've seen people's names up that I was doing way before they did, or way before I was even aware that they did it. So that being said, it's just a community effort, so just keep that in mind. The second thing here is I'm going to explain how the game works and what the difference between the INI settings in Fallout 76 and Fallout 7 and Fallout 4 are, because there is a significant difference in why some of the settings aren't working for some people, and that is because of how the INI setting folder is set up. So I'm going to first open that up and explain to you how the game works and the differences between Fallout 76 and Fallout 4 and why the INI settings don't work this way. Alright, so first, as you can see here, you have character, pictures, photos, and everything else. But I want to bring your attention to the Fallout 76 INI and the Fallout 76 Prefs INI. You'll have to excuse me, I'm kind of looking at my screen, so I don't want to not look at you. Okay, so here, first of all, you will see and read people putting up videos about Fallout 76 having a Fallout 76 custom prefs.ini. That does not work in Fallout 76. It works in Fallout 4 because Fallout 4's game directory actually creates a file called Fallout 4 custom prefs.ini. It's actually part of the game. The game code itself causes that to be created in that directory. The reason why it doesn't work in this, and this is why this isn't working for a lot of people, is because in Fallout 76, the game does not create a Fallout 76 custom prefs.ini. The game code never reads that file. So anybody actually putting out information saying, change the Fallout 76 prefs.ini to Fallout 76 custom prefs.ini, is lying to you because the game never reads that file. So regardless of what anybody says, regardless of where it's printed, regardless of who says it, it's not relevant. The game code is not set up to read a file titled Fallout 76 custom prefs.ini. Anybody that tells you the game reads that file is lying to you because they don't understand how that game, or they don't understand how the game works. So I'm going to explain to you how this game works and what you actually need to do to tweak the game, and then I'll show you some of the settings that I use, and give you an idea of what you can change, because I have a lot of stuff listed that's not listed anywhere. So let me start by explaining, and again, I'm looking at the screen here, so you have to excuse me. Okay, so the way the game works is this. If you're going to change anything, it must be done in the Fallout 76 prefs.ini. The reason behind that is because if you actually take a look at how some of the people have these set up, they say open this folder, open the Fallout 76 prefs.ini, delete everything in it, make a copy of that, and then set it to read only because the game will override the Fallout 76 the 76prefs.ini. That is 100% false because the game only reads, the game's programmed to only read Fallout 76prefs.ini and Fallout 76.ini. It will never read that. And on top of that, if you delete all of the information in there and the game is only overriding the Fallout 76prefs.ini with what's in the custom one, go ahead and try this and watch what happens, because the custom file only has certain presets in it that people are saying copy and paste this in it and then the game will override this. If you actually do that, your game will crash. It won't even launch because it needs the remainder of the information that's in the 76.prefs.ini in order to actually launch. If you remove that and only go by what's in the custom file, it's missing all the other stuff. The game won't even launch. So that's another way you prove this. And if you don't believe me, you can try it, because having a custom.ini with only what people tell you to copy and paste in there is the equivalency of removing all that and putting this in here and writing this as a custom.ini without the Fallout 76 prefs.ini in there. So that's like a mouthful. So if you were to basically rename Fallout 76 prefs.ini to Fallout 76 custom prefs.ini, the end result would be the same thing according to what people are saying. Only the information in that file gets read because it overrides the original. If you do that, your game won't even launch, which proves that file is not even being read. Now, I've also changed the screen resolution in this as well, and this is another simple test you can do if you don't want to do that. Change the screen resolution just in the custom prefs to like a windowed mode, and watch. If you don't touch the Fallout 76 prefs.ini, the game will still go into full screen mode. That also proves that the game is not reading that file, because if it was, it would put it into windowed mode regardless of what was in the Fallout 76 prefs.ini. So that is how the game works. That is the difference between Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 and why the game reads these directories the way they are. It's programmed to read that very specific thing. Okay, so now that you understand that, what you have to do about checking read-only, that is a fact, because anytime you use VATS or anything else, it automatically erases and overwrites the original file. So by setting it to read-only, you're preventing any changes being done to that file itself. So if you want to make changes and tweaks, clearly you need to make a backup of this entire folder. I would just make an entire backup of the Fallout 76 folder, which is what I'm going to show you in a minute. And basically what it comes down to is make a backup of Fallout 76.ini and Fallout 76 prefs.ini. That way, if anything happens, you can just replace it. Now, some people will say if you delete this file, it'll reboot the game. It'll create a new one. That may not work. Sometimes the game will crash. It's a finicky process. So, that being said, let me go into opening the other file here. Now, as you can see, I have here on the screen, I have the original ini files, but these are just some of the changes that you can actually do. I have depth of field, field of view, motion blur, camera tweaks. It basically, there's a lot of stuff in these things that you can change, the camera angling, where it is, how far it's back, things like that. Resolution of modifiers, same thing with save game. You can change how often the game saves. Now, there's a huge problem when you change the resolution, at least for me, that I had this issue with. When I stream, I use the window that you see here, and I have the chats off to the side. So I have a very, very specific resolution I have to use that fits my monitor perfectly, where I can still see the chats in YouTube when I'm streaming, and also I can see how many people are in there because I have the screen adjusted to fit just what's inside this blue window. So that poses a problem with most games because it's a very weird resolution. The resolution I use for this specific setting and how I have it set up is 1010 by 1445. It's a very odd resolution, and because my monitor is 16.9 as an aspect ratio, that kind of messes with some of the HUD in Fallout 76, which is my power armor issue. And so what happens is I'll get out of the game, and you can go into one of my previous videos and see this. I actually found out where the issue was, and I'm going to test it out when I stream this next or play it next just to see if it works. And it's just a very odd thing how the remainder of the game works fine, but it's only in the power armor HUD that sets it off of the screen. And like I said, you can see what I'm talking about if you go into one of my videos. So that's another issue here. And there are some changes you can make to the Fallout76.ini, but again, you got to be really careful with that because some of these files go hand in hand. Changing the stuff in the Fallout76 prefs.ini doesn't always necessarily mean it'll fix the issue. So you do have to understand when you're changing these things, you may need to change both the ini. You might need to change both of the ini files. So that's about it. So as I said, I mean, I have the base shell here. What that basically means, in case you're wondering, is this is a base shell in case I find any tweaks. I don't have to keep rewriting the same thing. It's just a blank text file that if let's say I find like wind velocity or something, I can change it in this without going into too much detail. It's already set, typed up things. It's basically a set one of these, and anytime I do it, I just add the information in and save it as a different file. That's all that is. That doesn't actually affect the game. But as far as camera tweaks, depth of field, things like that, there are things that you really need to read and make sure you know what you're doing on, because you can, prevent your game from being launched under these contexts. I mean, obviously, if you change it back, it'll launch, but that's just the baseline of it. Also, I want to point something out, if I can actually get into this here for a second. Fallout 76. Directory, any settings. So I don't know. Yep, okay, this will change it back here. I'm going to point out that people are asking me how the hell I got my custom picture in there. It's very simple. In the Fallout 76 folder, this is a complete backup of the entire 76 folder in your documents. So what I've done here is I've taken everything needed, and I would figure out how the stuff works, because I understand how programming works. I understand a little bit about how programming works and how the game reads certain things. And as I said at the beginning of this, the game's set up to read very specifically named files. Changing the name of a file will prevent the game from even knowing it's there, and despite what anybody says. Unless the actual game creates the file, then that's the file you have to go with. Other than that, you can't make up any files or whatever you want. So one of the things I did is I have a Buddy Christ picture here, which I find interesting. This picture is something that I used GIMP to. I took Buddy Christ from Dogma, and I took Fallout 4's, the Pip-Boy, and I gimped him. I put his face in, gimped it, and blended it together. So that's how that works. So in order to get this to show up as a loading screen, as you may have seen in some of my videos, that was a very simple process. So let me open this back up here. What I did is, actually, is that my desktop? No, there it is. Back up. Give me a second, I gotta get to the right folder here. Alright, so what I basically did with this, in this case, is I took a screenshot, and there were already screenshots inside the game from the game creating these directories. There's obviously nothing in the save folder, but when you're dealing with this in the photos, these are basically screenshots you have of, you can't see this now, but these are basically screenshots you take within the game. So this particular one is my character creation screen. Now I'll actually put that on the screen for you. Give me a second to load it in so you can actually see it. Image capture. I need to put this in. Give me 1 second. I'll show it to you. Streaming setup. No, it is documents. Fallout 76. Bear with me for 1 second. I didn't realize it was going to go off the screen like that. I got to adjust this. Give me 1 second. Alright, so this particular picture here is, I photoshopped the Buddy Christ picture over this picture. And so what I wound up doing with this particular aspect is that when you load it, somehow the game just reads these directories as loading screens. So by renaming, this is the key factor here, by renaming the picture that I made with the name of the picture taken in the photograph of the directory that Fallout created, it'll override the original picture with this one, because the game doesn't care what's in the picture. As long as it's the same format, and as long as it's the same name, it'll just read it. That's just how it is. If I try to rename this file, anything else. Let me get rid of this here. Cancel this. So let me remove this. Okay. If I rename this file anything else other than photo 18, the game won't read it. Even though it's in this directory, at least I shouldn't say that. I think the game won't read it. I could be wrong in that. But as far as this goes, the character picture, let me put the image in this here for this. Browse those characters. Alright, so that's the same picture. So let me back out. Character cancel. Okay, so here you have this specific picture. This is a pure white background, which actually appears on the loading screen as well. It just takes the profile picture itself. So when you start up the game, it's going to take this as your profile picture. So this would be kind of the picture you take at the beginning when you do your photo, whatever it is. You can basically replace this stuff if you know how to do it. So I just wanted to get this information out of the way because there's a lot of shit that's going around that people are just being absolutely ridiculous on. And it's not right for anybody to do this because it gives off false information and it really shouldn't be being done. So my question to anybody is that if you're going to try to argue with me on this, prove your case. Don't sit there and say, well, this works or I use it. I don't give a shit. You're not using any of these files. I've already proven why. If you're going to prove it does, then prove it. Otherwise, stop giving out false information to people because the information about the custom.ini in this game doesn't work. It never has. So again, I don't know where people are getting, well, the game automatically overrides this. This is both before and after the patch. So it's not like setting the file to read only is going to cause the game code to suddenly change where it's what file type it's reading and what name. It doesn't work that way. And that's just what it's funny, and people are getting this is how this works. Now, I'm sorry to shit on people's picnic, but the fact of the matter is, this is information that shouldn't be being out there without actual facts to back up what anybody's saying. So, I just wanted to get this out of the way, and that's pretty much all there is to it. That's the correct way to do this stuff. And just so you know, like I said, I'll before I end this video, I'll open up. Let me see. I'll open up the directory of these of this, and I'll show you what the folders, like some of the stuff I have in the backup, so you understand what this is. Just give me 1 second. I gotta redo something in here. Let me add this to the directory. Open this. Extras, any settings. So I'll actually open up some of these folder files so you can see some of the stuff that's in them. So you can see this just isn't some random thing that I'm putting up there. I always like to make sure that everybody sees everything I'm doing, and so nobody can say, well, you're not showing this or that and anything. I can't stand when videos skip shit. It's annoying. All right, so let me adjust this window here. 1 second. All right. There we go. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to open up the these folders, these files in here, okay? Oh, actually, I should have done this. Sorry, that was my fault. So it's a lot easier to see this way. There we go. Alright, so, like I said, just bear with me. Alright, so let's see. Lock this up. Okay, so, let's say, for example, your Fallout 76 INI changes. I have to actually open up the new window for this. Sorry. New window, image, window capture. Sorry, I didn't realize I had to do this twice. This is annoying. Alright, so there we go. Now, these notes up here are stuff that I just put in there myself to make it easier, in case anybody ever wants to upload stuff. This is how detailed I get my stuff. I'm showing people behind the scenes stuff and what I actually do with a lot of information that I put up. It's not something I just throw up there. I actually do what I say I do. So if you can see here, it says I put up blatant, like basic, crucial step-by-step things. I don't miss anything. So that way, if anybody actually reads this, you know, they can understand how to do it. And this is the difference on when I write. People always say, you can't write instructions. If you actually look at some of the stuff that I do behind the scenes, you'd understand. Like, for example, case in point. Hold on a second. Somebody just joined my channel. They might be. I'm actually going over the INI tweaks right now, so just give me a second. Hold on a second. This is the phone. Nope, that's not what we need. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, that's a little different. That's how that game works. But let me finish the INI tweaks here. Okay, so case in point, when I always tell people you can write instructions for things, this is some of the stuff I'm talking about. I'll open up my INI and I'll show you. It's ridiculous the stuff I have in here. Now, this isn't even for anybody else. This is personal stuff. So, as I said, I always write things so people can understand them, and this is why I get pissed off when people write instructions and they skip shit assuming you already know something. Don't assume anybody knows anything. If you're going to write instructions, write them. So, case in point, if you look at the what I have here written, it says, first of all, I'm making, first of all, the whole point of this is, like, if entries already exist in these files, then just change the numbers. Because I have written here, open whatever folder it is, find whatever you need, and then add or change these lines. 0 is 1, 0 is off, on is 1. So to turn it on, it's on. Turn it off, it's 0. Obviously, I'd get into a little bit more detail if I was posting that up, but that's the baseline of this. So basically, people are aware that you just don't just open up and add the lines because the lines already might exist. You have to take that into account. So now people could say, "Oh, that's dumb all you want," but this is the information you need to put in if you want people to understand everything you're talking about. It's a basic concept. So anyway, if I were to do, let's say, to change the skip the intro music, what I would do is I'd go down here and say, okay, now this is just in the Fallout 76.ini. As you can see, there's multiple changes. There's no reason to create separated files for that because it's all in one file. It's easy to read. It's in there. So what you would do is to skip the intro movies for this, you would delete the BSG logo.b2k from the intro sequence. So normally it would look like this. So all you would do is you delete that. And now the intro movies you'll skip. It doesn't do anything to the files or anything else. It just says the game's not reading this now. So this is why I said the game is programmed to read very specific things. So if you put in, like, let's say, let me see, hold on a second, let me lock this window. I need to lock this, there we go. Okay, so if you were to put in another movie that has a BK2 logo in it, okay? This has a very specific name, which is BGS. If you just were to put in something called logo.b2k, the game won't read it because the game is looking for this name. It doesn't care what's in the file as long as the format is the same and the file name is the same. It doesn't care what's in it. You could friggin' play home videos if you want, if you know how to change it. But the fact of the matter is, this is why the difference, this would be the equivalency of saying, let me see, Fallout 76. This is the difference between this and this. The game is set to read Fallout 76 prefs.ini. It will not read anything with the title custom prefs. It doesn't know that exists. And that's just one of the other ways I explain this. So that's why if you're tweaking the INI file, people saying put a custom file in there have no idea what they're talking about. The game won't read it. As I said with Fallout 4, the game itself actually creates a file titled Fallout 4 Custom Ini. It actually creates that. So that's the file the game would read if you're doing custom. But when it comes to Fallout 76.ini and Fallout 76 prefs.ini, the game will only read those two files. Putting a Fallout 76 custom prefs.ini won't do a damn thing. It doesn't matter what's in it, the game's not going to read that file because the game's not programmed to read a file named that. That's the aspect. Yeah, I'll just get to that 1 second. I'm going over the ini tweaks. I'm going to be streaming this in a few minutes anyway, but I'm only going to be able to stream it for like 15 minutes until my daughter gets home. So I'll probably stream it afterwards. But yeah, they fixed apparently the coding in the game that was with the traps. They fixing one trap, fixed them all, because it's what I said, it's what I thought. That the trap disarm code, or whatever the coding they used in the game engine for disarming traps, is one code that affects all the traps. So anything that had the word disarm on it, they just change one thing in the coding or whatever it is, and then it sets it off to read to all of them. So that's just how it works, and I was guessing on that, but that's what my guess was. But as far as the ini tweaks go, I'll give you guys another look at my folder that I have here, because it's these are let me see. Yeah, no, these are it fixed them all. The only thing that they didn't fix is the unlimited weight glitch. I did that yesterday in the game just to see if it worked, and it's ridiculous that they didn't fix this shit. But anyway, as far as these files go, you know, the ini tweaks and stuff like that. Let me see if I can get this here. That's my base shell. So let's say if you wanted to change the depth of field, or let's say the save game time frame. What you would do is you'd look at this, and it says, okay, I tell you exactly where it is. You set the default time. The default time is set to 10 minutes. So you open the Fallout 76 prefs.ini, find save game, change 10 minutes to whatever you want. Example, changing 10 to 2 will set the game to save at 2 minutes, and this is what you're looking for. So its default is set to this, but by changing this to 2, it changed the game auto save time to 2 minutes. So you can do all sorts of random stuff with these inis. One of the problems that a lot of people have is the field of view. So if you want to change the field of view, what you would do is you actually have to add these lines in there. So I always leave this in here. If these entries may be in there because you might have edited it already, that's another thing you have to take into account. So it says if these entries are already in here, you just need to change the numbers. But if they're not in here, you need to add or change the lines under display. And in this case, it doesn't have a default field of view, at least I'm not aware of. And so by changing this, it changes the aspect on how far your character can see. This is an issue with a lot of people that have motion sickness in games, because the field of view, what happened in, let's say, Dead Island. What happened with Dead Island, the field of view was set to like 60. And it was so close up that people couldn't handle the game. It was given to motion sickness. So by setting the view back to X amount, you're moving the camera back to pan a better viewpoint on it. That doesn't always work in all games, but it's mainly the baseline of how this stuff does work. Another one, for example, when you change, I'll use Power Armor HUD for example. If you saw one of my other games, when I got into my Power Armor, the HUD was off the screen. It was fucking annoying. And this entry actually isn't even in the ini, which it should be. Now, this is an entry that came from Fallout 4 that happens to work in Fallout 76 because they use the same game engine. But if you were to change the the interface, let's say the screen resolution, I should say. What happens with the screen resolution, I actually need to add this in here. It wasn't here, I just deleted it by accident. When you're doing this, when you're changing the resolution, actually, no, I said this in resolution. Let me use the resolution, actually. I did this. That's where I left it. Okay, so it says here, you will most likely have to adjust the Power Armor HUD when using this. I already put this in the field of view because this is what affects the Power Armor HUD. So if you're in it, the HUD goes off screen. So, but this is how you would normally change the display, like your resolution. So, as I said, when I'm streaming, I have a very odd resolution. It's a resolution that's very bizarre. My resolution when I stream is 1010 by 1445. When I added that to the game, it fucked up the Power Armor HUD, so I have to actually, it took a while. I actually had to look up this information, what was causing this. This has to be, I have to actually add whatever it is to this, whatever resolution I'm using, and then I have to tweak these numbers in accordance to the resolution, because these numbers are specific to this resolution. But if I do 1010 by 1445, I just have to alter some of these numbers. I need to know what numbers are doing what. So by getting the base information, it's just how you change it. Everybody's going to be different because your resolutions are going to be different. And who the hell uses a resolution of 1010 by 1445? It's fucking retarded. But I have that issue. Now, before they patched it, the game was running fine. I don't understand what caused it to happen. But apparently this information was exempt from, I have no idea. So it worked, and then after the patch, it didn't work, and I have no idea. So, the point here is that I'm going to end the stream soon, and then I'm going to wind up going out, I'm going to wind up exiting this stream in a minute, because I'm going to wind up getting my daughter off of the bus. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is I'm going to stream a little bit later after I get her off of the bus. So, my point here is that if you're trying to do these any tweaks, you need to tweak the Fallout 76 prefs.ini. If you don't edit that, you're not going to be able to get any of the changes in the game at all whatsoever. So I'm just letting people know that the information people are giving out about having a custom .ini file doesn't work. It never has. It won't, because unless Fallout 76 creates that custom file, it can't read it. There's nothing it reads. And so when you're dealing with INI tweaks, you got to really be careful and only understand what you're doing. And like I said at the beginning of the video, just to cover all this, people trying to get credit for this shit is annoying. Just because somebody posts it first doesn't mean they came up with it first. They could have stole the information from somebody else. Now, that's an ugly thing to say, but it's part of this concept. You can't remove it, and people don't like talking about this because they think it's negative, but the fact of the matter is it's all part of the same system. So when I started this video off, I says I'm not even giving specific credit to any one person. I don't care whose name is on the Nexus. I don't care whose name is anywhere. It's a group effort, and by a group effort, the entire community did it. So the entire community, as far as I'm concerned, gets credit for this. Case in point, I was making any tweaks to this before I even looked anything up. I already was editing some of the stuff that people posted. Now, I didn't even know about that. I had no idea who did it or what. I was just messing with the ini file because I understood how to do it simply from making my own stuff. And so because of that, do I get credit for that because I came up with it? No, we both did it on our own. So the point here is that I didn't need to look up something to know what I was doing. It helps if somebody does it, but I'm not going to give credit to somebody for something that I previous did before. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? That's just stupid. I'm not going to give myself credit because they're out there as well. We both came up with it. It's both our discoveries. And so getting credit for this shit is fucking annoying. I can't stand these whiny bastards on the net that, whatever. And like I said, this is an ugly side of it, and people don't like to talk about this, but this is a side of it, and it really should. When you're dealing with mods, if somebody comes up with a modeling mod that they spent time doing in 3ds Max and shit like that, yeah, okay, that's fine. Give them credit for that. But when you're talking about any tweaks, no, there's no set one person that gets credit for that. That's just fucking stupid. So anyway, I am going to end this because my daughter's getting home soon, and then I'll probably be back somewhere around 1:30 streaming this. I gotta check a few of the ini tweaks. I haven't actually checked them out, but I just found out what was causing what and everything else. So hopefully my friggin' Power Armor HUD's been fixed because of this. So that's about it. So until then, Steel Gamer signing off. Have a good day or night wherever you guys are.